Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, I'll be doing my Eastern Conference first round preview. We'll go through all four of the series. And then also, guys, we'll tie a bow on Chicago's season as well as Atlanta's season and what lies ahead for them. Also, some news about sports gambling. I'll get into that as well. So just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Okay, guys, it's your boy GD back with the All Things Basketball with GD podcast. And guys, we are in playoff mode. So that means the playoffs are starting to get underway, guys. So a lot to talk about. Of course, I will cover the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Right now, we will focus on the East. So we'll go through every single series, key matchups, and my predictions. So let's get right into it, shall we? All right, so we will start with the number one seed, the Boston Celtics, facing the Miami Heat, the number 8 seed. Now, guys, Boston went 3-0 in this series for the season. But the last time they played them was in February 11th. So you're talking a couple of months ago. So obviously, the Miami Heat looks a little bit different than it did back then. But we'll get into that. How Boston got here? Well, they finished with the best record throughout the NBA and in the East, obviously, at 64-18. They were 37-4 at home, and then 27-14 on the road. And in the conference, they just dominated, 41-11. So Boston, of course, with their two dynamos, Jayson Tatum and also Jaylen Brown there. And of course, you got guys like Derek White, who had a renaissance season for him. Also, Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, health is always the issue with him. You got the floor general, Drew Holiday, and you got that nice bench over there. So Boston is loaded, locked and ready for these playoffs. How Miami got here? Well, they finished 46-36, which put them 8th in the East. They finished 22-19 at home, 24-17 on the road. And in the conference, they finished 32-20. So they did very well there. In terms of the play-in, guys, they lost to Philadelphia in the play-in. They were on the road playing in Philly, and they lost that 105-104. And then just last night, they beat the Chicago Bulls, blew them out, really, 112-91. But in the play-in, guys, they lost Jimmy Butler on a fortunate play, a breakaway play where Kelly Oubre kind of came down on him, and that caused Jimmy Butler to sustain a MCL injury. And guys, the prognosis is he'll be out several weeks. What does that mean in terms of his return? Too early to say, but a crushing blow to the Miami Heat. But they were able to prevail against Chicago without him. A lot of guys stepped up there, but they have a tall task at hand facing these Boston Celtics. And the key matchup in this series, guys, it's a few of them. I say Derek White, who I just talked about. I think him going up against Tyler Hero. I think that is going to be key because Tyler Hero right now will be leaned upon to carry this Miami Heat team throughout this series. So, and also too, remember Derek White, he's a very good defender. So that matchup, I'll be interested to see who gets the advantage there. And then I'm going to say Boston's bench versus Miami's bench. Miami has a strong bench. They have Peyton Pritchard, also Sam Hauser. You have now Al Horford coming off your bench. Whereas Miami has Kevin Love, who played well in the game against Chicago. You also have Duncan Robinson, still your sniper from deep, and Hayward Highsmith, who's been playing well. So, guys, that's, I think, the one who has the stronger bench will have an advantage in this series. So I'll be looking to that as well. My prediction, I'll say Boston in 5. I don't see Boston sweeping them. And Boston, to me, sometimes kind of play around in series where they don't put the foot to the gas pedal. So I think Boston in 5. I think Miami can take a game. In terms of Jimmy Butler, I'm going to be honest, guys. I don't see him appearing in this series, which will make it that much tougher for them. So right now I'm saying Boston in 5. Okay, with that, let us move on to the next series. My New York Knicks, and you see I'm representing. My New York Knicks, the number 2 seed, going up against the number 7 seed, the Philadelphia 76ers. For the season series, guys, the Knicks won that 3-1, and Embiid appeared in only one of those 4 games, and we did beat him in the game that he appeared. But the Knicks did sustain a 79-73 loss to the Sixers in one of the lowest scoring game of the season, guys. But this is how the Knicks got here. They finished 50-32, which I chronicled when I talked about in my last episode, them getting the 50 wins in that second seed. They were 27-14 at home, so you like that, and 23-18 on the road. Guys, when you go at least 5 games over 500 on the road, that's pretty good, which the Knicks were able to do. In the conference, 35-17, so definitely they definitely stood out in the conference. How did the Sixers get here? They finished 43-35. They finished 7th in the conference, 25 wins against 16 losses at home, and then just 22-19 on the road. In the conference, they finished 4 games beneath the Knicks in that regard, 31-21. They did beat Miami in that play-in, 105-104, which I chronicled. Joel Embiid in that game, he was really laboring, guys. He did have the 23 points and amassed double-digit rebounds, but he was a shell of himself, guys. So his health is paramount in this series. And then in that game, too, of all people, Nicholas Batum goes crazy in that series, dropping 20 points. He dropped about 6 threes in that game. So will he be able to repeat that against the Knicks? I don't know about that one. We'll see. The key matchups will be Kyle Lowry. I think it'll be a steady diet of Kyle Lowry and Kelly Oubre Jr. that'll be guarding Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, we know, was 4th in the league in scoring, and he is the catalyst for the New York Knicks. So they'll be looking to slow him down. They'll be looking to kind of neutralize him. Will they be able to? That, of course, will be a key to this series. And then you'll have the combination of Isaiah Hartenstein and Mitchell Robinson against Joel Embiid. A Joel Embiid who isn't 100%. In the past, Mitchell Robinson has been able to deal with Embiid. Hartenstein, we'll see what he can do with him, but Hartenstein had a fine year subbing for Mitchell Robinson. So I expect both of those guys to really test Joel Embiid and see, are you really healthy or not? And don't be surprised if, lo and behold, Tom Thibodeau may run a play or two for your guys like Isaiah Hartenstein, maybe a couple of lobs for Mitchell Robinson, just to see if Embiid can stand up to the physicality in this series. So that will be a matchup I'm looking at. And I think one on the low is Dante DiVincenzo versus Tyrese Maxey. I think this one will kind of fly under the radar, but if DiVincenzo, who's a very good defender, if he can kind of slow down Maxey, I think that could be a boon for the New York Knicks. So with that said, my prediction, the way I see it, guys, if Embiid plays 4 or more games in this series, I think it goes the distance. I think it goes to 7. But if Embiid plays 3 games or less, I'm picking my Knicks in 5. I think they're riding momentum right now. You got guys stepping up. And of course, I did not even mention the OG Anunoby factor and how well they play when he's in the lineup. I think a series like this, he is paramount in this series. So you can even go to Anunoby probably facing up against Embiid, guarding him. So you can definitely see that in this series. But yeah, I'm calling it the Knicks in 5. If Embiid plays 3 games or less, if he plays 4 games or more, Knicks. That's the way I'm calling it, guys. All right, so I see my Knicks prevailing either way. Let us move on. The number 3 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks, versus the 6th seed, the Indiana Pacers. Guys, I think if Milwaukee had to face anybody in these playoffs, I think this is the one team they're really worried about. Indiana finished the series 4-1. Remember, they had the extra game because of the in-season tournament. So 4-1 is how they dominated the Bucks this year. Mind you, they haven't played them since the turn of the new year, January 3rd. So, I mean, they did add a piece here and there, like a Patrick Beverley. The Bucks did. Well, also, too, the Indiana Pacers did that without the services of Pascal Siakam. So you could look at it that way as well. But I think this is a opponent that Milwaukee did not want to see in the playoffs. How did the Bucks get here? They finished 49-33, just a shade under the Knicks, 3rd in the East. They went 31-11 at home, 18-23 on the road, guys. In fact, they and the Orlando Magic are the only teams in the East with a losing record on the road. So file that away, if you will. And they did finish 34-18 in the conference. So you have that. In terms of Indiana and how they got here, 47-35 they finished, which was 6th in the East. 26-15 at home, 21-20 on the road. So a slightly above 500 record on the road. You'll take that. And then within the conference, 32-20. The key matchups for me, I know on paper you probably say Dame Lillard versus Tyrese Halliburton, but I think it'll be Patrick Beverley probably guarding him a lot, Halliburton. I still think Halliburton's going to give Pat Bev the business. I think that unless, Patrick Beverley go to psychological warfare, and then that's a whole nother story. We'll see what happens there. And then this matchup too, because right now, and I didn't even mention the elephant in the room, Giannis Antetokounmpo, him dealing with the calf injury. So that's something that's hanging over the Milwaukee Bucks franchise right now. He missed his last 3 games, and then now in these playoffs, he hasn't even practiced yet, guys. So it's going to be touch and go with Giannis in this series. So for the moment, I'll say Bobby Portis Jr. versus Pascal Siakam. That's going to be a matchup that's going to be interesting there until, of course, you get the services of Giannis. And then one I think on the low is Brooks Lopez versus Miles Turner, who Miles Turner quietly has had a very good year, guys. And so I think whoever gets the best of that matchup, the team success may hinge on that. So I think that's an intriguing matchup. So with that said, my prediction, if Giannis plays, I'm going to go with the Embiid scenario. If Giannis, with his strained calf, if he plays in 4 more games, I still think Indiana in 6. And then if he plays less than that, Indiana in 5. I'm be honest, I could see Indiana sweeping them if Giannis doesn't play in this series at all. That's how good Indiana has played against them. It just seems that they match up well against the Bucks. So I'm going to say Indiana in 5. If they swept them, I wouldn't be surprised. If Giannis plays and looks like his old self, I still say Indiana has the advantage, guys. So that's the one upset I see in the East. Indiana beating the Milwaukee Bucks. And then the last series I'll talk about is the number 4 seed, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are facing the number 5 seed, the Orlando Magic. And for the season series, guys, Cleveland took it 2 games to 1. And they last played at the end of February, around February 22nd. How Cleveland got here, they finished 48-34, 4th in the East, 26-15 at home, 22-19 on the road. And within the conference, they finished 31-21. The Orlando Magic, 47-35, 5th in the East, 29-12 at home, so they were dominant at home. And on the road, 18-23, much like the Milwaukee Bucks, which is the worst record for any playoff team thus far. And they finished 32-20 in conference. I think the key matchup in this series, guys, Evan Mobley versus Paolo Banchero. I think this matchup really, in all honesty, I think the series hinge on this matchup. That's how important it is. Paolo Banchero, who I just found out, he is the youngest player to lead his team in points, rebounds, and assists. That's telling you what kind of year Paolo is having, guys. He's been that good. So, and we know Evan Mobley, he's a very good defender. So this matchup, I will be glued to in this series. And then also to Matt Strus, a combination of Matt Strus and probably Karis LeVert versus Franz Wagner. And he's their number 2 guy over there, a versatile player. He could play a number of positions, and he is very skilled. And I think how they handle him will go a long way in this series. And then, of course, you have to worry about the health of Donovan Mitchell. He's had the knee issue that he's been dealing with pretty much most of the season. So I think that's a key to this series as well. How healthy is he throughout this series? But my prediction, guys, this is the way I'm looking at it, guys. I think it'll be Cleveland in 7. I think it's going to be a long series. I understand. I get it. The Orlando Magic, this is their first time in the playoffs in probably decades, it seems. But I think, and you heard me talk about him a few times on the live, even in my last episode, Jamal Mosley has really turned this program around. What he has done with these young guys, I think you have to applaud him for that. And the fact that they're in the 5 position, it says a whole lot, guys. And mind you, Cleveland is back in the 4 like they were last year. Remember last year, they lost to the Knicks. They lost to the Knicks, who was the 5 seed. So I don't see them losing this go around because you got such a young team there that they're facing. But I tell you what, guys, when it comes to playoff pressure, I think it's four guys who are under a lot of pressure. Jayson Tatum of the Boston Celtics, I think finals or bust for the Boston Celtics. And of course, he's the leader of that squad. So I think pressure is on him. Joel Embiid, there's a lot of pressure on him right now. His team, it seems like they can only get to the second round, and that's about it. They never make it to the conference finals under his watch. So you have that. And Donovan Mitchell is a guy I think is under immense pressure right now. And I'll say Dame Lillard. I think Dame Lillard is under a lot of pressure. I don't think it's Giannis because of the injury. I think because Dame, he wanted to smoke, guys. He wanted to leave Portland. Mind you, he would prefer to go to Miami, but it is what it is. So he's in Milwaukee right now. And what he does in this playoff, I think a lot of eyeballs will be on how he produces in that Indiana series. If Dame is Dame, then I think it could flip around and Milwaukee wins, but I just don't see it, guys. I don't see it. But I think those are the 4 players that are under intense pressure in the East. So let me put that out there. So, all right, guys. So that is your playoff picture for the East. Let's talk about the teams that played in the play-in but are now home packing and getting ready for next season. The Atlanta Hawks, who played in that 9-10 game and lost to Chicago. I think Atlanta right now, they're going to have to figure out that backcourt, guys, between Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. Now, will that backcourt survive this offseason? You know, there's been a lot of rumblings in the past about Trae Young and possibly moving on from him. So you have that. Dejounte Murray, we heard a lot of overtures towards the trade deadline about moving him. If I had to guess, I don't think we see that backcourt together next year. I don't see it. I think they want to shake things up in Atlanta. How they do it, I'm not sure. And then also, could Clint Capella be on the move? He has one more year on his deal. There's a lot of teams out there thirsty for a starting center. I think they could be now ready to turn the keys over to Onyeka Okongwu. I think they're ready to put him in as the full-time starter at that center position. So I think Capella could be on the move this offseason. We'll see. And I think they need to re-sign Jalen Johnson ASAP. He had a breakout season for him. He showed that, this guy can play. So I think Atlanta needs to lock in this young player there if he's going to be a building block over there for the future. So that's the Atlanta story. And then the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls, a lot of questions over there. What to do with Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine, of course, got shut down for the season, guys. Another injury marred season for him. He is still owed $137 million for the next 3 years. So you have to wonder what is going to be with him. And then also, too, DeMar DeRozan, he's an unrestricted free agent. So he could be a guy that's leaves and go to greener pastures. So you have that. And then you got to think about the two guys that are pretty much injury riddled. Lonzo Ball, who is owed another $21 million, which is a player option, actually. So I feel he will opt in. I make no mistake about it. He will opt in on that $21 million. And then Patrick Williams. He's a guy who's has an injury history as well. And he's owed $13 million, and he has a qualifying offer with the team. So I think Chicago Bulls will look very different next year, especially if DeRozan's on the move. Zach LaVine, I don't think there's a market for him right now because of the injury there. I just think Chicago's going to have to figure some things out. Let's just put it that way. So with that said, that's it for that. And then the final item I want to talk about, it's been bad news in the Porter household, guys. And these are the two brothers of Michael Porter Jr., who plays for the Denver Nuggets. Jontay Porter, the 6'11" forward/center for the Toronto Raptors. He has been banned from the league, guys, for sports betting. There was an investigation, and they concluded that Porter violated league rules by disclosing confidential information to sports bettors. Definitely not good. He limited his participation in a few games for betting reasons. Not good at all. And then the icing on the cake, he made bets on himself. He made bets himself, rather, on NBA games. A definite no, guys. And you know something, guys? And I talked about it maybe a while ago in terms of sports betting in the league. I think I was referring to referees when I talked about it, but I'm sad to say I don't think this is the last you'll hear of this type of story, guys. I think the proliferation of sports betting, whether it be DraftKings, whether it be FanDuel, whether it be ESPN themselves, they have this sport bet. MGM, they have their gambling thing, and on and on and on. I don't think this problem is going away. I think the league has to address this quick, fast, in a hurry in the off season. I think something has to be done. Will they step away from partnering with these betting sites? I don't see it because of the revenue that it brings, but they have to figure something out in this regard because, again, I'll say I don't think this is the last we hear of this type of story. And then the final thing I will talk about is the younger brother of both Jontay and Michael Porter Jr., and that's Coban Porter. He attended the University of Denver. He was sentenced this week to 6 years in prison for a drunk driving crash that left a Colorado woman dead and another passenger severely injured as a result. And this happened in January of 2023. And the blood alcohol they found in his system, 0.19, which is more than double the legal amount for the state of Colorado. So an awful thing, terrible thing to hear. Especially someone losing their life over someone drinking and driving and going behind the wheel. Just a lesson for us all in terms of that sort of thing. Drunk driving doesn't help anyone at all. And we live in a day and age where you have car service, you have Lyft, you have Uber. If you don't feel up to it, don't get behind the wheel and drive. That's the way I see it. So I'll just leave that there. So with that said, that is it, guys, for this episode. I will bring you my Western Conference, the first round preview of that. I'll be coming with that shortly. So as always, thank you, guys. I always appreciate you listening, watching, however you consume this program. I definitely appreciate it. All things basketball with GD.com. That's the website where you can go and check out the content there. Also on YouTube, I'm there. All things basketball GD. You can find me there. All the platforms in terms of podcasts, Apple. Leave reviews, guys. Leave reviews. You can leave it on YouTube. Like the video on YouTube. You can also, on Apple, leave a review there as well. So, and then also social media. I'm all over the place. Instagram, Facebook. I make my TikTok videos. X, you know the deal with X or Twitter, whatever they call it these days. I'll post, my content there, and then I just keep it moving. All right, guys. So with that said, I thank you for listening as always, and we'll talk soon. Take care.